Today on Locked On Canadians, we're going to play a game and we're going to find out how much faith we really have in our Habs. It is the moment of truth.
You are Locked On Canadians, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadians. We want to thank you all for being here. Today, we're going to play a little game. We have this bit on the show called Gun to Your Head, and it's really, to kind of figure out how we really feel. So we've got some questions for each other to find out what we think is in store for the Habs, what could go wrong, who could be successful, etc., etc. We haven't asked each other these questions yet, so we're going to see how we really feel. But to do that, obviously, first, my name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. And Ian, gun to your head. How are you doing right now?
I'm okay. I thought, look, we're still in August. There's still not a lot going on. I was trying to find a way to make a 30-minute show about the Canadiens' new center ice logo because they have a new logo. Did you see it?
I did see it. It looks a bit cartoonish, but it's better than last year's.
Last year's was rough because it was like red. And like by the middle of each period, it was so chopped up you could barely see it. I like it a little bit better. We weren't going to do 30 minutes on that. So thank goodness you came up with another concept for today's show.
Yes, we have a couple of plugs. First of all, mailbag episode on Friday. So please do not forget your questions. We record on Thursday at dinner time. So please send your questions in. LockedOnCanadians@gmail.com. Also, Ian was on Locked On NHL for the season preview. And that is airing also on Friday on Locked On NHL.
Yes, Friday, Locked On NHL game night. So go check him out. Great chat with Shu, who's a Bruins fan, who olayed me as I showed up into the chat, which was very fun. And Eddie, an LA Kings supporter. So it was a lot of fun. If you had a good time last year watching the Canadiens and you're excited about next year, that episode's for you. Go check it out. It drops on Friday.
All right. Speaking of next year, we're going to ask each other a series of questions. I'm going to start. The first thing I'm going to ask you, Ian, is when do you think is the earliest moment the Montreal Canadiens will win the Stanley Cup?
I'll say 2028. I think it could happen in 2028. That's the earliest possible. You know how like you get a delivery window when you order something online and it's like it could happen between Wednesday and Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Like that to me is Wednesday. Like that could happen soon.
That's Wednesday. Okay. Can you give me like 2 reasons why?
I think they've got all of the parts locked up. They have the core of their team completely locked up. You look at a lot of the other teams that are trying to enter this era, right? This competitive window that the Canadiens are about to find themselves in, and they often don't have that. They often have a contract that's still in dispute. The Canadiens don't have that, and they're going to have close to $40 million next summer to play around with. Now, what actually ends up coming to free agency or is available in the summer, who knows? But they're going to have the funds to play around with. I would imagine at that point, Kent Hughes will have exhausted his patience, right? He's not going to be able to be this patient forever. He'll need to find the best fit out there instead of the perfect fit. But I think those are the reasons to me that lead to the Canadiens being in a position in 2 years to have the Stanley Cup. Will it happen? I think that's obviously very optimistic. It's also impossible to predict any Stanley Cup ever, right?
Correct.
A lot of teams don't win a Stanley Cup until they're not supposed to. I think about the Washington Capitals a lot, right? Like all those years where they just kept running into the Penguins over and over and over again. And then a lot of the team aged out. They weren't in their prime anymore. And all of a sudden they win one. That's sort of what I always keep them in the back of my mind is sometimes you don't win one until you're not supposed to.
Yeah. And just think about how every year was Carolina's year and think about, what happens in Edmonton and think about all of that. So I think it is quite optimistic, but I do strongly feel that the Montreal Canadiens do have a cup coming before Nick Suzuki's contract is up. That is my prediction. That is how I feel. All right. I have another question for you.
Let's do it.
If the Montreal Canadiens are lifting the Stanley Cup in 2028, as you said, is Josh Anderson still on the team?
Ooh. Now, we have been proponents of extending Josh Anderson, right? To a contract that makes sense. You probably don't have to pay him $5 million a year. You probably don't have to pay him $4 million a year. Considering what he's bringing on a nightly basis, you probably can't stomach that. Nor do I think Josh Anderson is going to expect that on his next contract. With that said, the cap is going up, all that noise. The fear I have with Josh Anderson, and I think I articulated this when we first brought this up. I mean, months ago now. If you'd let him go, I can't help but feel that you're going to be searching for a Josh Anderson for a very long time. And that's not to say he's going to be this version of himself forever. Quite the opposite. He plays a very hard game in the playoffs. You can't anticipate that he's going to keep that up forever. But for, another 2 years after this, can he keep it going? Yeah, probably. I have this sneaking suspicion that the second you let him go, every trade deadline from then on out, you're going to go, you know what? We need a Josh Anderson type on this team. And why not the Josh Anderson? We have Josh Anderson at home. And Josh Anderson at home is Josh Anderson. I think this is the most anyone's ever said his name in a 30-second bit. So
say Josh Anderson one more time.
What would you to you when they win a cup? Is he on this team?
I think so, because if you're talking as early as 2028, I believe so. My next question to you was going to be, Josh Anderson was not going to live forever, right? He is going to have to retire eventually or sign somewhere else. As pretty
and
as
die,
he is.
Apparently. But I don't know why you mentioned it that way, but
if there is a person that is currently in the Canadian system that could replace Josh Anderson, I'm going to give you two choices. Which one will you lean more heavily against? Will it be Florian Xhekaj or will it be Zach Bojic?
I think Florian Xhekaj, his game lends itself more to that. That's not to say Zach Bolduc can't be that guy, but we see Zach Bolduc in the NHL now, and he doesn't have that same consistent intensity. It's not to say he can't develop it, but I feel like if you put Florian Xhekaj in that spot and you put him in the Canadiens dressing room, you hold his eyes open and you make him watch playoff Josh Anderson tape, he could do that and be very effective at it too, for what it's worth.
Like what I like
that. I like that fit.
You like that fit. When I look at Florian Xhekaj, I feel like if you take the Josh Anderson that exists now and like add just like a little bit of unhinged to him, that is like there is a quality of unhingedness. I don't know if that's even a word to Florian Xhekaj that I think makes him a very tantalizing prospect, right?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's why when they picked him, Bob Roth called him the unicorn, right? Like this is what they see in him.
They see very much something like Josh Anderson is quite a unique player, right? And which is not to say he's the best player or whatever. Like that's not what I'm saying, or the most productive, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just saying that Josh Anderson is a pretty unique kind of player. And I find that about Florian Xhekaj. All right, here's my next question. 5 years from now, is Florian Xhekaj a Montreal Canadian or like on some other team?
I think he's a Canadian.
You think he's a Canadian?
Yeah, I mean, we were there for his first NHL game. Now is Arber a Canadian? I don't know about that.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself there, because I know another question. You knew it was going to come up though.
Yeah, of course. So they asked me on the season preview on Locked On NHL Game Night, and I was like, I should have anticipated this question coming, and it still surprised me. I do think he's a Canadian. I think they value a lot of what he brings, and again, it's like the second you lose a guy like that, you're looking for a way to replace them.
Yes.
So I'd rather hold on to him. I hope the Canadians do too.
I think so too. So I do have an Arber Xhekaj question. It's not exactly what you think it is. I know you think what's coming, but it isn't. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it on the other side of it. So we'll be back in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. But first, this episode is brought to you by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent, it's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports just like it is in business. Lately, we've been hearing a lot in the news about what the Montreal Canadiens are doing and building, and all the players talking about how they're all on the same page. They want those cups, they're not chasing the money, they love playing together, they have that open relationship, right? And that's exactly how your business should work. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. All right, we are back and we're asking each other. I have to give you a chance to ask me some questions. I'm just like firing away. All right. The Arber Xhekaj question is not whether or not you think he's a Montreal Canadian. My Arber Xhekaj question is whatever team Arber Xhekaj is on over the course of his career, do you think on any NHL team, NHL level, he is an 82 game a year player or 84 game a year player?
Yeah, we have to
Barring
get the
injuries.
82 out of our lexicon,
Yeah,
huh? Like
yeah.
we have to remember when Rene Bourque in the playoffs was like, well, we dug in and we got a big 2 points, and it was like that's not a
That's
thing
not, yeah,
anymore.
that's what we're doing right now. So
Yeah,
is he an 84 game player, barring injuries?
I don't think so. I don't think any number 6 defenseman in the NHL is though. Right? Like again, we have to. I believe Arber Xhekaj in the regular season last year played 70 games. And people act like he was in and out of the lineup every other night, which is just it's factually incorrect. I talk about this with the Locked On NHL Game Night guys. Arber Xhekaj's perceived value is always going to be higher than his actual value. Because his actual value is a guy who plays six defenseman minutes, third pairing minutes in the playoffs, will not play a lot. He will take a lot of penalties, most of them fighting majors, but also a lot of penalties. Also, just by virtue of the fact that the referees do not like him. And I talk about this all season. I talked about it all year last year. I'm going to continue to talk about it because I find it to be the funniest phenomenon in Canadiens games. Whenever there is any kind of scuffle going on the ice, if Arber Xhekaj is there, there is a referee on him. It does not matter if Arber Xhekaj is 30 feet away from what's going on. A referee has Arber Xhekaj locked up. Like that to me is a huge factor in actually like determining what this player's value is.
Two things.
Because he can't be the version of himself that we want him to be, which is why it's tough to play him 84 times a year.
Exactly. But there's two things about that. One, a lot of times they're holding back Arber Xhekaj, at least one, sometimes two referees or officials are there, and other people are killing each other. Like their skates almost digging into like necks. It's crazy.
It is insane how often it happens. And like I know a lot of Canadiens fans see it, but I don't think people around the league fully grasp just how silly it looks when there's guys pummeling each other and Arber Xhekaj 25, 30 feet away is being grabbed by a linesman. Because they can't afford to let the nuclear option go in there and get loose, even though he might not even do that because it might not be worth doing at that point.
Right.
He's gotten a lot of that stupid stuff out of his system. He doesn't do that anymore.
Right. And he's also gotten pretty good at like removing people from a pile and tossing them aside, right? Maybe that's what he was going in there to do, but we're never going to know.
They'll never give him that benefit of the doubt.
The referees feel about Arber Xhekaj the way people think Marty feels about Arber Xhekaj.
This is correct. Yeah, that is the correct take to have.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to ask some questions or
keep firing? I don't have any at the moment. I'm sure they'll come up.
All right. Out of this roster that you're seeing right now, who is a Montreal Canadian, and we can include like prospects about to make it. Hage, Reinbacher, Florian Xhekaj, Adam Engstrom. Who out of all these people do you think is the most likely to win a Hart Trophy?
So of the prospects that haven't made the jump yet?
Them or people who are currently on the NHL roster. So anybody who's currently a Montreal Canadian who has the highest chance or the fastest chance of being a Hart Trophy winner.
It's Suzuki. I don't think it's particularly I don't think it's close either.
No?
Like if there's anybody on the roster who can win one, it's Nick. Anybody in the system who can win one, it's Nick.
I'm so happy.
He's already got the hardware. He's in the conversations now. He's got the Selke. He's a 100-point center. He'll probably do that again before his career's over. Especially with his two line mates potentially, leveling up a little bit more. And one of his power play partners in Ivan Demidov maybe stepping up a little bit more. Like there's a chance that his point totals could really explode and he can find himself in that conversation. I mean, how many centers in the National Hockey League were better than Nick Suzuki this year?
Not very
It's
many.
like Connor McDavid. It's Nathan McKinnon. It's Leon Draisaitl. I'm sure there are others.
Can you remember any of them?
He's like Mark Scheifele had like one of the best years of his career, the Coward, and it was like right on line with Nick Suzuki's, and Suzuki won the Selke. So like I think it's him. I think it's Nick. Does it happen? I think it's fairly unlikely, but should someone have the type of season to pull it together, it's him. Dark horse candidate.
Lane Hutson.
Jacob. I was going to say Jacob Fowler. Maybe Lane Hutson. Yeah, I could see Hutson doing it. When was the last time a defender won the Hart, though?
Very long time ago.
It's not. I think voters typically like to skew that towards the forwards.
They like to skew that towards the McDavids and Sidney Crosbys of the world. Sure.
And I think honestly, it's fair. Because, like, what other forward awards are there? There's a goalie of the year award. It's the Vezina. There's a defender of the year award. It's the Norris. There's no forward of the year award.
No.
I think that's why a lot of times, like, they lean in that direction. But, I wouldn't put it past him. But also, like, could Fowler have a season like that? Maybe. I give it, like, a 0.1% chance of happening. But, like, it's higher than maybe some of the other options that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Sticking with Nick for a second, do you think that there is a time there are going to be seasons in the future where the Canadiens have multiple 100+ point players on their roster?
Yeah, I think so. I think him and Demidov could do it. Maybe not next year, but the year after. I don't put that by Demidov at all. I think the challenge is, like, can you have 100-point player can you have 200-point players on different lines? Like, is that a reasonable expectation? And in order for that to happen, Demidov is the power play, but Demidov's also going to need some high caliber scoring options next to him. No disrespect meant to Oliver Kapanen or
Alex
Newhook. But I think he would need some help to get there.
And do you think Juraj Slafkovsky ever has a 100-point season? This one's tough.
I don't think so.
Is he going to be a point per game player?
I think he could get close to a point per game. The challenge I have with him is, so I'm looking at last year, his power play point totals. 14 goals, 12 assists, 26 points, and that's just in 5-on-4. I didn't count 4-on-3 or 5-on-3. Only 6 players had more power play goals than Juraj Slafkovsky did last year. And I just have a hard time believing that on the power play, that's going to be the case forever, because I think Demidov is going to step in and take some of those. I think Caufield will get more than his fair share on the power play as well moving forward. I think if Lane Hutson keeps shooting the puck like we saw him do in the playoffs, he's going to score more on the power play. But I do think that Slafkovsky will always have the ability to put up points 5-on-5, just because of the way that he plays, because of his unique form factor. He's able to do things that lots of other players in the league just can't. He's able to create offense from the boards. right? How many times do we see him on the wall, win a puck battle, and get the puck to the middle of the ice? It happens frequently. So I think, I think it's possible that he gets close to around 80 points, 82, 83, 84 points. But that's going to come. I think that would still be a high water mark for him. Like, I think that would be sort of where I would think he taps out.
I think for me, the thing with Juraj Slafkovsky is that what he brings to the game are not just points, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly like you said. Like, his value on the team is not always going to be captured in point totals or plus minus or goals or whatever, right? It's always going to be, sometimes it'll be underlying numbers that are really indicated, and sometimes it'll literally just be the eye test. All right, I've got plenty more questions, and a couple of them might be negative, but we're going to try and keep it mostly positive, because the more I talk about this team, the more I love it, the more excited I am for the next season. So we're just going to do that here, one moment, here on Locked On Canadiens. So it is also brought to you by Indeed. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed sponsored jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and location, so less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now, and in the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Usually, the biggest difference isn't really someone who's doing more work, it's having somebody who knows exactly what needs to happen and helps everything run smoother. It's okay to have a hard worker, but really you need somebody who can fit with the team and hit the ground running right away. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, we are here doing our rapid fire, asking each other questions about the Montreal Canadiens' future. And this is going to be a tough one because very few defensemen have accomplished this. Do you think Lane Hutson will ever be a point per game player?
I think he can do it. I think the game is opening up more than it has in years past. Obviously the extra 2 games makes it a little tougher. But the thing the thing I always have to remember from Lane Hutson is he might not get a point every night, but he has these gigantic outbursts where, okay, there's 3 points for a defenseman. He picks up 3 assists. I think it really, as the power play in front of him gets more consistent and maybe it becomes one of those nearly 30% power plays instead of simply a 20% power play, he can really start to get there. But I'm certainly, I have learned to stop betting against Lane Hutson. The reason I say that is when he first broke into the league, or before that, when we were watching his Boston college mixtapes. There's Boston University mixtapes. My mistake. He's not a Boston College Eagle. I was constantly like, no, I am not getting excited about this player. It's a small defenseman, and those have historically burned me. Remember Victor Mete? That's who he is. He's Victor Mete. Don't get excited. And then he played 2 games with the Canadiens at the end of that season. I went, okay, maybe he's more than that. And then next year he wins the Calder, and I go, okay, maybe it is okay to be excited about things.
And then next year he ties the record.
Yeah.
Franchise record.
I still I remember I said this after his rookie season that he could be the Canadiens' all-time leading scorer for a defenseman by the time he hangs him up.
Yeah.
And I remember people got mad. I'm looking at it now and I'm going, do you still believe that that's silly? I don't think it's that ridiculous. I think he's going to get really close. He's on pace to do it. at least from an assists and point standpoint, not necessarily the goals. But I think that I like I mentioned earlier, I think the goals are the rate limiting factor for him. If he can pot a few more goals, or just shoot the puck more in general, I think he's going to create more offense.
Well, he has the ability to like shoot it through multiple people. So
I've watched every angle of that overtime winner in Game 3 against Tampa Bay, and I still don't know how that puck went in the net. I still don't understand it.
Magic.
How did it went through 4 different bodies and then the goalie, and it was going up the entire time? Like it was just shooting up to the back of the net, and then he got uppies in front of everybody, and it was embarrassing. But I still don't fully understand that. I hope that the one lesson Lane Hutson took from the playoffs last year was I got to shoot this thing more.
Yeah, he does. He does. I think it's really funny if they win the cup, like all of the pictures will be him carrying the cup and then somebody like giving him uppies at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. What's the cup? 37 pounds, something like that?
Yeah.
You can just attack. That. Someone can lift Lane Hutson plus 37 pounds. It might be Caden Gooley, like we saw in that overtime.
Yeah. You could probably put Lane Hutson in the cup.
Now I need to see it.
I think his teammates will try to do that. I did have another question. If the Montreal Canadiens win the Stanley Cup in the next decade or whatever, who's the first person Nick Suzuki hands it to?
I would be lying to you if I told you I haven't thought about this. I generally think it's bad form to talk about it.
Okay.
But also I'm going to do it. And it's Cole Caufield. They've been here together the whole time. It's Nick and Cole. It was 14 and 22 and now 14 and 13. I think it would be really, unless of course they bring in the old guy that you win it for, right? The Ray Borks of the world. You bring in one of those guys. Yes, the Mike. Maybe it is Mike.
Yeah, could be.
I would love to believe that they do a circle of friendship around the Stanley Cup. And as I'm doing this, I'm feeling icky doing it, so I think I'm gonna stop.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna move on because I'm tempting fate and I'm gonna throw up.
All right. I have one final question for you, and then if you have any for me, we can keep going. If the Montreal Canadiens do not end up winning a Stanley Cup, if they end up not being contenders, what went wrong?
Is it unfair to just say them's the breaks? Because I genuinely believe like that's a perfectly reasonable explanation for why good teams don't win.
Right.
It's just sometimes that happens. Think about like the San Jose Sharks, like the Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, Evgeny Nabokov, San Jose Sharks. They won none cups. They should have had 1, maybe 2 in the time that they were together, right?
Yeah.
I think about this current iteration of the Dallas Stars. They should have had 1, maybe 2. There's only 1 to go around, and soon you'll be splitting it with 34 teams instead of 32, right? If you need an answer, it's they lack another star player at forward.
But I think that's a perfectly reasonable answer. I mean, them's the breaks is the most logical reason. But like, if I want like a particular reason, then yeah, like I feel like they didn't have enough elite talent in their top 6.
Yeah, you ever see the spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Glass Onion, Knives Out Glass Onion, so you can log off now. We'll miss them. That movie ends in a very unsatisfying way. They don't get the bad guy. Roll credits. That's the movie. Sometimes sports is like that.
Yeah.
And it sucks to hear. Nobody wants to hear that. But sometimes that's just what it is. And it doesn't mean that like that era of that team is a failure. Right? I think you're a failure if you don't even try. If you never get to that point and you're never close, that's failure. You know, like this Canadiens team was built the right way. They're doing it the right way. We have faith that they'll continue to do it the right way. If they don't get one, of course it's going to be devastating, but like it might just be because them's the breaks.
Yeah.
Like, and the world is oftentimes far less satisfying than we would like to believe. I say that on the day that Dolly Parton passed away, right? Like that is somebody that everybody universally is going like, this shouldn't happen. This person should live forever. Them's the breaks.
That's how it
you
works.
know?
Yeah.
That's how it ends, unfortunately.
I think for me, like you said, like they have to try, right? The biggest thing is they have to try. And sometimes they might not even come close. But I think that people always forget especially in hockey, you can't just be good. You have to be good and you have to be lucky.
Yeah, you need the right matchups at the right time. Look at the
Yeah.
Carolina frigging Hurricanes, man.
Yeah.
You know, there's an athletic writer who made some waves last week by saying the Buffalo or the Canadiens played or the Buffalo Sabres played a crappy caliber playoff team in the Montreal Canadiens. Well, like the Carolina Hurricanes then by that logic played 3 not very strong playoff caliber teams. And then they get to the Stanley Cup final. You know? Like the Hurricanes had finally got one of the easiest paths to their cup final. I always go back to Steven Strasburg, Washington National, won the World Series MVP with them in 2019. He said some year it seems like most years you just run into the buzzsaw, and then one year you're the buzzsaw. The Canes were the buzzsaw this year. Sometimes you just keep running into the saw, and that's sports, and it sucks. But that's what also makes it way more satisfying when they do it, because the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy in sports to win. It is. There's nothing close. I hate to say that, like, it might just end that way, and we might just have to go, well, we'll get him next time. There's always next millennium.
I think for me, the biggest thing is that we looked at a lot of teams that you think like should have it or should have won it or we're trying to build, and they didn't really build a truly deep roster, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that gets people. And I think the difference with this year's Carolina Hurricanes is their depth was unmatched. Did they have that much elite talent? Probably not, but their depth was unmatched. And that includes in goal. And I think a lot of times, like you look at a team that's very top heavy and you have absolute superstars. Like Connor McDavid is the best hockey player in the world. But this is not the kind of sport where one guy is enough. He has to have enough of a supporting cast. And, we've talked a lot about how they can't build a defense and they can't put together good goaltending, right? And until they get that, they're always going to be the ones running into the saw.
Yeah, there was a new episode of 32 Thoughts, and Elliot Friedman was like, man, the Oilers look like they're on a mission. They look like they really want it. I'm like, it's August, man. Like, the problem has never been that in August they didn't want it enough. The problem has always been that they don't have the horses to do it. And I just find we're so close to hockey, Laura. We're so close. We're already getting best shape of their live season in some way, shape, or form. I cannot wait for the Canadiens friggin' golf tournament so we can I'm in the best shape of my life. Who's the first Montreal Canadiens? This is my question to you, and then we will end the show. At the golf tournament, who's the first Montreal Canadian who says I'm in the best shape of my life?
Kirby Dach.
Kirby Dach is a great answer. I'll throw Sam Montembeault in there. I think Sam would be like, I'm in the best shape of my life. Because man, it's my favorite time of year.
Yeah. All right. Are we done with our questions?
I think we're good. I think
We're
it was
good.
very reciprocal. You asked like 14, and then I got the last one in there at the buzzer to put my name on the group project.
All right. As for you listeners, please put your name on the group project and ask us mailbag questions. You can also challenge us on what we said today. That works too. So you can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media. We're Locked On Canadiens on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Blue Sky. We the network posts our stuff on X, and we are not there, so please don't send your mailbag questions there. Really, the best way to do it is lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. So please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're going back up to 5 days a week next week. And the season is getting close to starting. Tell your friends about us. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. subscribe everywhere. Just like every podcast app, just subscribe to us, and then also on YouTube as well. But tell your friends and rate us, give us good ratings so people will find us. Right now, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On sports channel on YouTube. Or if you're listening to this podcast on audio, make sure you check out Locked On NHL, particularly on Friday, because Ian is coming up with the season preview. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time.